Hey everyone, thanks for logging on to KUsports.com. It's game week at KU football. Tom Keegan, I'm Matt Tait, and you can see around here they're getting ready.
Yeah, they're setting up the tents. I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the players look ready. David Beaty's ready to have his first game where he's really in charge since he was in high school.
It's pretty cool.
Not playing in high school. He wasn't a player coach, but coaching in high school.
Right, yeah, it's pretty cool. I was thinking about that the other day. You know, this is the third time since Mark Mangino left that we've had a season opener or a season debut for a new coach at Kansas. It's crazy to think that it's been 3 different coaches.
3 times in 6 years.
Yeah, and unbelievable.
And then you can add a fourth interim coach, Clint
Bowen's debut. You're right, yeah, big stuff. But this team, more than any of those teams, I think is really intriguing because there's so many new faces, both on the staff and on the roster. There are a few players, I think newcomers, that jump out at you on both sides. Why don't we start with defense? Tell them who you should look for, newcomer-wise, on defense. Everybody knows Ben Goodman and those types of names,
right.
but a couple of newcomers defensively that you think will stand out Saturday.
Well, obviously we've written and talked a lot about Damani Mosby, and there's a reason for that. He's super quick off the line of scrimmage, super active. He's a strong guy, 6'3", 239 pounds, and he can really move. He'll put pressure on the quarterback. He'll get to running backs. Everyone's really excited about Damani Mosby. Anthony Alobia, another guy who redshirted last year after transferring as a JUCO. Very excited about him, they are. And Marquise Roberts, the linebacker from South Carolina, looks good when you watch him in practice. And just hearing the coaches talk about him, it sounds like if the rest of the linebackers are here, maybe Marquise Roberts is up here. And he's a real smart football player is the thing they keep harping on.
Yeah, instinctual, right?
Yeah, and that's obviously a good sign. And then Brandon Stewart at the cornerback is a JUCO transfer, probably the fastest guy on the defense. And then Tyrone Miller, the true freshman from Michigan. They're just raving about how mature he is, how football smart he is. So on the defense, those are the key names to remember because it's kind of overwhelming for the average spectator who's coming to a game. And there are only 2 returning starters.
Yeah,
that's
you gotta look up numbers and cross-reference. Who's this guy? Remember
those names. I probably should have supplied the numbers, but remember those names and just kind of look out for them, and that'd be a good place to start enjoying watching the game.
Definitely. Offensively, same sort of thing. There's a bunch of guys, a bunch of playmakers, really, and I think it starts with Keegan Kenner, the running back. He's what Reggie Mitchell called a combination of Tony Pearson and James Sims.
Nice.
2 pretty good players, and if you combine them into one, I think that's a pretty good player. So I know the entire offensive team is really excited about seeing what Keegan Kenner can do. The rest of those guys...
It's amazing how often his name comes up. When you're talking to a lineman, you're talking to the quarterback, they all mention his name, and those are the little cues we look for
sure,
to decide who the team is really excited
I
about.
asked Montel Kozar today what the perfect first drive would be, and he said it starts with a big run by Keegan Kenner, sets the tone. I mean, that's a junior quarterback starting for the 2nd year, playing for the 3rd year, saying, I want this newcomer to set the tone. And that's really cool. So that's obviously a big name to look for. But then the rest are probably at the wide receiver position, too. I mean, the entire wide receiving core is new. Joshua Stanford from Virginia Tech, that's a guy that David Beaty can't say enough about. Steven Sims, a true freshman from down in Texas, another one that he can't say enough about. Those are 2 huge names to look for, catching the ball. And then Kent Taylor, it's a guy who hasn't played football in 2 years. He came from Florida. He sat out last year. He sat out the year before that
tight end
injury.
Yeah, and he'll be split wide some too.
Sure. He's a guy that really could create some matchup problems and be interesting to watch. Maybe not start to finish, but in spots and in times. So I think that's a pretty good list of guys that are playmaking guys that will have the ball in their hands and could easily be names that fans love.
And then if it comes down to a game-winning kick, it could depend on what distance that kick is.
From 36, who is it?
Nick Bartolotto, I'd say.
Yoda.
And 45, let's say it's Matt Wyman from there, or maybe even 42 and up.
Sure.
That's the way they're going to do it. Beatty wouldn't say where they draw that line. Of course, it can depend also on which direction the wind is blowing.
Yeah, he said if we get inside that 40, we're in field goal range. One cool thing that Rob Likens said about getting inside
that 40,
it
means 57-yard kick.
Yeah, right. One cool thing Rob Likens said about getting inside that 40, when I get on the other side of midfield, if it's 4th down, I'm ready to go. We'll see. He did also say it's the head coach's decision, but I'm ready to go. So
Yeah.
look
And,
for
you
a
know,
lot
they-
of fourth downs possibly.
Well, Wyman does have a super strong foot, but you keep hearing him talk about if it had been between the uprights, it was definitely long enough.
Not good.
So it's got to be between the uprights.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can plumb
But
out
his
anything.
first time in his career, he worked with kicking coaches, the old Lions kicker for 21 years. He worked with him in the summer, and then he worked with a former K-State kicker in Kansas City. So look for an improvement from Matt Wyman.
Yeah, it should be a very exciting opener. It's a couple of things I'm really looking forward to. What's the crowd like? That's a big one. It's the opener. Not a lot of expectations, not a lot of hype around this team, but how many people will show up? And then number two, what do these guys look like? Are they organized? Are they disciplined?
Right.
You know, this coaching staff seems like they've really got it buttoned up. Does that transfer out there on Saturday? We'll find out. Tom Keegan, Matt Tait, KUsports.com. Thanks for checking this out. And we'll see you throughout the rest of the week with all kinds of stuff coming out of that building, preparing for that field.
And out of that mouth, in this mouth.
That'll work.
And
Talk to you
these
guys
fingers,
next time.
and those fingers.